My girlfriend told her therapist, "I'm planning to claim he hit me if he ever tries to leave during a session." The therapist called me afterward. Apparently, she's legally obligated to warn potential victims. I got security cameras installed and a restraining order. She's now under investigation for filing false reports. I, 29M, never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am, sitting in my new apartment with security cameras in every corner, trying to process what happened over the last few months. This story is about how a therapist's phone call changed everything and possibly saved my life. I'd been dating my girlfriend for about 2 years. Things had been rocky lately, but I thought we were working through our issues. She'd been seeing a therapist for anger management and what she called relationship anxiety. I supported this completely. Therapy is important, and I wanted us to get better together. Last Tuesday, my phone rang with an unknown number. When I picked up, a woman's voice introduced herself as my girlfriend's therapist. My heart immediately started racing. She told me she was legally obligated to warn me about something discussed in their session. The words that came next still make my blood run cold. During their most recent session, my girlfriend had apparently laid out a detailed plan. If I ever tried to break up with her or leave, she intended to call the police and claim I had physically abused her. The therapist explained that she had specific details about how she would injure herself to make it look convincing, including which bruises would be most believable and what story would be most credible to authorities. I sat there in stunned silence as the therapist continued. She mentioned that my girlfriend had researched domestic violence protocols, knew exactly what to say to police officers, and had even practiced her victim voice. The therapist emphasized that while she couldn't share everything discussed in therapy, this specific threat to frame me for a serious crime fell under her duty to warn. My hands were shaking as I hung up. This was the woman I'd been planning to move in with next month. We'd talked about marriage, kids, our future together. And all this time, she'd been preparing to destroy my life if I ever wanted out. I called in sick to work the next day and spent hours researching everything I could about false domestic violence accusations. The statistics were terrifying. Even when charges are eventually dropped, the accused often loses their job, housing, and reputation. Many employers won't touch someone with a domestic violence arrest on their record, even if it never leads to conviction. That evening, I told my girlfriend I needed to work late and instead drove to a security equipment store. I bought 4 discrete cameras with audio recording capabilities and a digital storage system. The salesperson helped me understand local recording laws and made sure everything would be legally admissible if needed. I installed the cameras that night while she was at her weekly book club. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, and hallway, all angles covered. The cameras were small enough to blend in with existing electronics and furniture. I tested the system multiple times to make sure everything was recording properly and uploading to cloud storage in real time. The next few days were surreal. I acted completely normal while internally screaming. She made dinner. We watched Netflix. She complained about work, all while I knew she was planning to potentially send me to prison. Every time she touched me casually or got slightly irritated about something minor, I wondered if this was the moment she'd decided to execute her plan. I reached out to a lawyer who specialized in domestic relations and false accusation cases. He was unfortunately familiar with situations like mine and immediately advised me to start documenting everything. He helped me file for a restraining order, using the therapist's warning as primary evidence. The therapist agreed to provide a written statement about the threats, carefully worded to respect patient confidentiality while still protecting me. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, I had to continue living with someone who might call police and claim I attacked her at any moment. I barely slept, constantly worried that any normal relationship disagreement could trigger her plan. On Friday night, we had what seemed like a normal discussion about weekend plans. She wanted to visit her sister, but I had work commitments. Her tone shifted slightly when I explained I couldn't go, and I saw something change in her expression. My skin crawled as I realized this might be the moment she'd been preparing for. She started raising her voice, getting more agitated about my work schedule. I remained completely calm, knowing the cameras were recording everything. She began accusing me of not prioritizing our relationship, then escalated to claiming I never supported her emotionally. The whole conversation felt scripted, like she was building towards something. Then she did something that made my blood freeze. She walked into the bathroom and closed the door. I could hear her moving around, but couldn't see what she was doing. When she came out 15 minutes later, I noticed a small red mark on her arm that definitely hadn't been there before. She immediately started crying and saying she couldn't handle our relationship anymore. She claimed I was becoming controlling and aggressive. As she spoke, I watched her subtly positioning herself where the living room camera would have the clearest view. Everything the therapist had warned me about was happening in real time. I stayed completely calm and suggested we take a break from the conversation. I told her I was going to bed early and went to the bedroom. She followed me, continuing her emotional performance. She kept mentioning how scared she was and how she didn't feel safe. The whole thing felt like a rehearsed scene. I pretended to fall asleep, but stayed awake all night, terrified that I'd wake up to police officers arresting me. Every sound in the apartment made me jump. This was psychological torture, living with someone who was actively planning to destroy your life. The restraining order was approved the following Tuesday. Court officers served her the papers while I was at work, and she was legally required to move out immediately. She called me dozens of times, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails. Her tone shifted from confused to angry to threatening. She demanded to know why I'd filed the restraining order and claimed I was being paranoid and controlling. In one particularly revealing voicemail, she mentioned that she'd been trying to help our relationship by talking through scenarios with her therapist. She said I'd misunderstood everything and that she'd never actually do anything to hurt me. But the damage was done, and I had legal protection in place. Update 1. 2 weeks after the restraining order was finalized, she violated it by showing up at my workplace. Security called police, and she was arrested. During questioning, she apparently broke down and admitted to planning the false abuse allegations. She told officers she'd researched exactly how to make bruises look convincing and had practiced her story multiple times. The investigation expanded when police discovered text messages between her and her sister discussing the plan in detail. Her sister had apparently advised her on which injuries would look most believable and how to make sure I couldn't provide an alibi. They'd been plotting this for weeks, maybe months. District attorneys filed charges against her for conspiracy to file false reports, harassment, and violating the restraining order. The prosecutor told me this was one of the most premeditated cases of planned false accusation they'd encountered. Having the therapist's testimony and the recorded evidence made their case incredibly strong. During the investigation, police interviewed several of her ex-boyfriends. 2 of them came forward with similar stories. She'd apparently threatened one previous boyfriend with false rape accusations and had actually filed a false domestic violence report against another ex that was later proven fabricated. There was a clear pattern of behavior. Update 2. The trial lasted 3 days. The therapist testified about their session and the specific threats made. My security camera footage was admitted as evidence, showing her creating the bruise on her arm and practicing her victim performance. Her text messages with her sister were read aloud in court, detailing their conspiracy. Her defense attorney tried to argue that she was just venting in therapy and never actually intended to follow through. But the premeditation was too clear. The researched injuries, practice stories, and coordination with her sister proved this wasn't just angry talk. It was a detailed plan. She was found guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced her to 2 years in prison and ordered her to pay restitution for my legal fees and security equipment. She'll also have to register as someone who has filed false police reports, which will show up on background checks and effectively prevent her from making similar accusations in the future. Update 3. It's been 6 months since this all started. I've moved to a new apartment and changed jobs, not because I had to, but because I wanted a fresh start. The cameras are still installed everywhere I live now. Some people might think that's paranoid, but after experiencing how quickly someone can try to destroy your entire life with false accusations, I'm not taking any chances. The therapist who called me has become something of an advocate for other people in similar situations. She told me she'd never encountered such a detailed and premeditated plan for false accusations in her career. She's now training other therapists on recognizing these red flags and understanding their legal obligations to warn potential victims. My ex is currently serving her sentence and will likely be released in about 18 months with good behavior. I've moved far enough away that running into her accidentally is unlikely, and the restraining order remains in place indefinitely. This experience taught me that sometimes the people closest to us are capable of unimaginable betrayal. I spent 2 years building a life with someone who was simultaneously planning to destroy me if I ever wanted out. The psychological manipulation was subtle but constant. She'd been conditioning me to doubt my own instincts and accept her version of reality. I still struggle with trusting new relationships. Dating is complicated when you've experienced something like this. I find myself analyzing conversations and interactions for red flags that might not even exist. Therapy is helping, but recovery from psychological abuse takes time. The security cameras aren't just about protection anymore. They're about peace of mind. Knowing that everything in my home is recorded and stored safely means I can't be surprised by false accusations again. It's a small price to pay for feeling secure in my own space. Looking back, there were warning signs I missed. Her intense reactions to any mention of breakups in movies or conversations about other couples splitting up. The way she'd get unusually upset when I spent time with friends or family without her. How she'd sometimes test my reactions to hypothetical scenarios that now seem like research for her plan. The most disturbing part is realizing how close I came to having my entire life destroyed. If that therapist hadn't called me, I would have eventually tried to end the relationship naturally. I might be writing this from jail right now, or living as a registered offender, unable to find work or housing. One phone call literally saved my future. To anyone reading this who recognizes similar patterns in their own relationship, trust your instincts and protect yourself. Document everything, install security measures, and don't hesitate to seek legal protection. False accusations are rare, but when they happen, they can destroy lives completely. The system is supposed to protect victims, but it can also be weaponized by people who understand how to manipulate it. My ex is facing the consequences of her actions now, but I'm the one who has to live with the psychological aftermath of being targeted this way. Recovery is ongoing, but I'm grateful every day that I had warning and was able to protect myself before it was too late. The therapist who saved me once told me that healthy relationships don't require exit strategies or protection plans. If you're with someone who makes you feel like you need to document everything for your own safety, that relationship has already failed. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away, even when, or especially when, the other person doesn't want you to. If you'd like to see more stories like this, a gentle tap on the subscribe button would mean the world to us. Please subscribe.